So how might these causes relate to one another, right? In the previous video, we saw that, hey, look, there's one way in which you talk about the cause of the key turning is, oh, just the woman made this decision. The other way of talking about the cause is, oh, there's a brain state of the brain, and that causes the key turning. And these look like two coherent ways, effective ways, useful ways of accurate ways of talking about what's going on with what causes the key turning. But we want to ask, how are these causes, or parent causes, maybe they're the same, maybe they're different, related to one another? Well, one answer would just be, well, actually, there's only one cause there. The brain state and the decision are, in fact, the same thing, and it, not they, it, because there's only one state there, is what causes the key turning. So this is that would be the physicalist answer, right? According to the physicalist answer, there's a brain state of the brain, and that just is the decision. So we can talk about this brain state in different ways. We can use brain vocabulary to describe it. We can use mentalistic vocabulary to describe it. We could use, if we knew it fully, the fundamental particle physics description of what's happening in the brain. There are all these different descriptions we could give of it, but among other things, it would be true to give it the brain state description. And that would in fact be, in a way, the most fundamental characterization of it. And that would be the physicalist picture of what's going on here. There's a brain state. It causes, through the brain activity and then the neuronal activity and then the muscle activity, the turning of the key. And yeah, we can also talk about that brain activity as a mental state. It can be useful to talk about it that way. But there's just the one state there. And the most fundamental way to think of it is it's a particle physics state. All those particles, forces, and fields make up a brain state, and that brain state has the right role in the information processing machine, and so it happens to be a decision. But you might think, no, I'm not a physicalist, and then you might think these two things, the decision and the neural correlate of the decision, are actually different. And then we might wonder, well, okay, if there are actually two things there, there's the brain state, which is the neural correlate of the decision on the one hand, and on the other hand, there's the decision. That's one thing. And the second thing, there's the brain state of the decision, and those are distinct things that are both happening. There are two states there. Then we want to know, well, what is their different relationships to the turning of the key? Well, you might think, oh, maybe only it's the decision that causes the turning, right? Maybe the brain state doesn't make anything happen, and it's just the decision. But that's not very plausible at all. We know all about the biology of and neurology of physical motion, of muscles. Of course, there's a lot to learn, but and we're still learning more. But our neuroscience tells us, as far as we know, every single action in a muscle is produced by all the sort of intentional actions that we engage in when we activate our muscles. Those are caused by chemicals from neurons, and the neural activity is caused by previous neural activity, which is caused by brain activity. And so this is not a good solution because it's not compatible with neuroscience. You might think only the brain state causes the turning. The brain state and therefore the mental state doesn't have any effect, and it's just the brain state that's doing the work. Maybe that's a better solution. But that's also an unattractive solution because we think, well, look, one of the fundamental things we know about minds is that minds are agents. We are agents. We do things. We make things happen in the world. And turning a key to start a car is about as central a thing that we could do as and make happen as a result of our decisions. And so if we are agents, if we make things happen in the world, then which we think we are, then this is also not a satisfactory description of what's going on. Well, okay, so maybe really they both in their own ways cause the turning. But this is also confusing because we think, look, given what we know about neuroscience and so on, and anatomy and physiology, the brain state has done all the work, and it's done enough to get the muscles to move. And so we then ask, well, what more does the mental state contribute, right? Remember, when we talk about the brain state here, we're talking about the neural correlate of the decision. It's happening at the same time as the decision, and what's it caused by? It's just caused by previous brain activity. So it's not clear how the decision could cause, what extra work is the decision doing, right? It would have to be doing something over and above what the brain state does to contribute to the turning, the motion of the hand. What could that possibly be? We don't know. And so if we find all three of those options unattractive, we think, well, there are those two separate things. Only the brain does it? No. Only the mind does it? No. They both do it? No. If none of those are attractive, then this is what we're stuck with, and we should be physicalists. We should think the best way to understand what's happening is that there's one thing there, the brain state, which is also the mental state, and it is what is doing the causing of the turning of the key. So we can take all of these observations and put them together into an argument that the decision is a brain state. How does that go? Well, we say that the decision caused the key turning. We believe that. We think that we're agents. We say that brain state X caused the key turning. We believe that because we believe neuroscience and the sciences of anatomy and physiology. And we say that nothing besides the brain state X caused the key turning, and that's the weakest of these premises, but that is supposed to be supported by our the observations I just gave in the previous slides. We put those together, and it does indeed follow that the decision is brain state X. Right? The only way that that could happen, right? If the brain state caused the key turning and nothing besides the brain state caused the key turning, then if the decision also caused the key turning, then hey, actually the decision and the brain state are just the very same thing. There's one thing happening there, fundamental particles, forces, fields moving around. They make up constitute the brain, and because they have the right role in the individual's psychology, in the individual's behavior and interactions with the world, they are also a brain state, but it's the particles and the forces in the fields that make up the brain state that are what produce the movement of the hand. And we can generalize this to an argument that all mental phenomena are physical. So how would that go? Well, we'd have premise 1, mental phenomena have physical effects, and premise 2, only physical phenomena have physical effects. Well, if both of those are true, then indeed all mental phenomena are physical. Why? Well, if mental phenomena have physical effects, and the only things that can have physical effects are themselves physical, then mental phenomena have to be physical. So that's the causation argument for physicalism. In our next video, we will look at those two premises and think more about whether or not we should really believe them.